Hello and welcome to episode 25 of I Let the Story Write Itself. Today I am going deeper into my adventure in Malaga in Spain. And if you've been following along with the journey, you'll know that I was in Barcelona before spontaneously taking the train over to the south of Spain and staying in Malaga really for the next like 2 months or so. And this was back in March of 2016. So this whole adventure really came about from intuitive prompts and leading with that intuitive pull and that spirit of simply flowing and being and trusting essentially. And, as I'm in Malaga, I'm like reflecting on this journey that led me here. And it's like this forward momentum and this forward pull and this feeling of just being led on this journey. As the title of this podcast, Let the Story Write Itself, implies, it really was me simply feeling like I'm tapping in, tuning into a purpose, I guess, bigger picture, the universe simply leading me on a pre-paved path, and I'm just allowing and showing up essentially. A lot of it felt quite magical and very flowy. I didn't plan much of it. I was playing like this game of Marco Polo, and each step of the way I was just like tuning in, like, okay, where do I feel called to now? What do I feel called to? How am I feeling? And it's just like this very sensory game where it's like you're in your body, So much, I think so many times in conventional life we're like cut off from the body and the intuitive wisdom and just existing in the head and the mind and the analytical approach. And, obviously I had completed university, and a lot of my misalignment with that time was really feeling I was not necessarily connected with my soul or my purpose, or really just experiencing life the way that I meant to. So as I'm in Malaga, Spain in like March of 2016, and I'm there for like April as well, and like the beginning of of May, I'm just feeling like this overwhelming sense of peace. I'm like, wow, for the first time in a long time, since obviously I had enrolled in university and I kind of went on this tailwind of not really feeling my true self for a lot of it. In fact, the whole journey of it, and really reclaiming myself, but also feeling like I was just on this journey of reclamation in the period of time between university and, this adventure that came about nearly a decade after I was 17, already in my mid 20s, right? And it felt like I was just reclaiming who I really was at core, and like coming home to myself. Often you hear people talk about coming home to themselves. And it's like, when you deviate from that inner soul path and calling, such as say going on a path that is not really meant for you, or that you were never called to in the first place, you can feel very disconnected from your true self. And that is essentially what happened, especially also then, even after graduating, trying to fit myself into some kind of employment and going through all of that whole ordeal, and that feeling of like, oh, none of this feels quite right. And then just that constant seeking and longing and searching from my soul, like it just would not let me settle, right? I just never really felt settled. And that's why I was always like moving. I was always like shifting, changing, like evolving very, very quickly. And it was essentially just the whole time my soul trying to call me back to myself and be like, okay, you're getting closer, you're getting closer, you're getting warmer, until finally I was in the vicinity. And this was when I was in Vancouver now, and I was like now enrolled in like a program that I actually wanted to take, a life coaching program, and I'm living in a city and I'm feeling more like my own person, and there's a semblance of like joy there. There's this feeling of like, okay, I feel a lot better than like say some earlier periods when I was not feeling that empowered in my own life choices, and I was just doing things because I had an education fund saved for me, or I didn't feel so strong in my self-trust, or I was just kind of listening to outside voices like, oh, this is the thing to do, and this is the better choice, or consider this. And I was not really considering my own choices, which a lot of times tend to, a lot of times you'll find the inner voice from within yourself do not necessarily line up with the way that the world is customized to. Because especially if you're someone who, you know, I would say are, you're a light worker, you're a light being, you come to the world with a different consciousness, your choices and your pull is going to be innately um, counter what is currently in place, because you're actually meant to help to bring about a new world, and your consciousness is aligned with with what is to be. You're almost like a future oriented type of, well, I wouldn't even say future. It's more that your consciousness is already living in that future just by way of you being a leader in that natural sense. And so it's so imperative for people who come to the world with this soul path to have that self-trust. And it's already very strong. Like a lot of us already know, and we know deep down how we feel, but having that ability to choose and to actually embody that and to embrace that and to live that is another matter, right? And it took me like, you know, that whole detour to come back to myself again. And so now I'm like in Malaga and I'm like, wow, just by way of allowing soul to lead me, I feel like this is like a deeper, more expansive, like a lighter joy. It's a different quality than the joy that I had, say, when I was in Vancouver and, still just going about daily life for the most part. But, feeling like I was in a more higher vibrational energy of more appreciation and gratitude and consistent joy and all and such. But really now by the time I get to Malaga and I'm on this adventure and I'm in this more allowing and intuitive soul-led journey, this is like really cracking open and I feel like way more lighthearted. Suddenly Vancouver and all that feels in a way dense. Like suddenly the energy of that feels much heavier than what I'm currently experiencing. So there's definitely different levels. And I'm like, okay, it all makes sense now. It all somehow, makes sense to your more analytical mind. You're like, this whole pull towards the unknown is kind of like leading you to this moment where suddenly it's like you just feel you're in the right place at the right time. Like there's a feeling of being whole. And I had not felt that in quite a while, especially since I was just distracted. I was maybe not distracted. I was like pulled off path. I wandered off path. I was just like in such like turmoil for a lot of it. And it was this deep feeling of like, wow, I actually feel excited about life again. It was like almost this feeling of being a child again. It was a greater feeling of I'm like my true childlike self, like a return to that innocence and that joy and that renewal. And Malaga is like right by the beach, and the place I was staying is just like across from the beach. So I would like the sand is like the sand, the sea, the ocean, the sky. All of it was just like so almost like perfect for this moment where I would spend like a lot of time on that beach actually like and it wasn't very busy because it was like March so it was like not that warm, it was still quite cool but just right, like I could wear like t-shirts and such but I wasn't like you know, sweating or anything, and it wasn't too crowded yet. So it was just like perfect time, right? And I would often like bring like my journal there, and I was like feeling very poetic. So I'd be like sea, sand, sky, and I would just like notice how like the ocean waves would just kind of wash things away. And like I felt just such a momentous energy of like nature, like the absolute like momentous power of nature, like the sun, the sky, the sand, the sea, just all of these elements that just wash away anything that is not in flow, anything that is not in the present moment. Like nature is so dynamic, it's always moving, it's always shifting, it's always renewing itself, it's always coming to a state of balance and homeostasis and like that internal wellness and wholeness essentially. And I'm like, wow, this is essentially what I feel like is happening. I'm like getting in sync, in tune with the universal cadence, the rhythm, the flow. Like the ocean, the sand, the sea, it's like so vast, it's so powerful, it's so cleansing. I'm like, wow, I realize I've been holding on to so much. And I was like looking at the journal that I had where I had still some like pages from like earlier, like prior to my trip. And I was just like, wow, a lot of this stuff I felt, was very much like not quite in the zone. It was almost like had a very seeking, like longing feeling, like, oh, like a feeling of like a longing, ruminating quality. Like I was still searching for something, like something wasn't quite in place. And suddenly, as I was here, I was like, oh my gosh, I almost felt like this desire to just throw the journal away because I'm like it was like all it leads up to this point. That saying, like, and the rest is history. It's like all of it kind of led up to this point where suddenly it felt like everything just made sense. Like everything just felt so whole and complete and perfect. And it was this feeling of getting into the rhythm of life, the flow of life. And that's essentially what I had been doing with all of these very otherwise intuitive choices that wasn't about thinking or analyzing, but simply going with my heart, going with what I felt, allowing my soul to express itself. And as a Sagittarius in midheaven, have my Sagittarius in midheaven or midheaven in Sagittarius, whichever way it is, it is a bit of a soul calling and a true calling. Like it's definitely an alignment for me to live on a more global scale. So it's not surprising that I would constantly get these intuitive hits and these ideas like go travel, go to Toronto, like pulling me, like just pulling me, kept almost like nudging me, prompting me, go do this, move, like go over here, like do this, go do that. And it's like I was just like resisting that for so long, or just even ignoring it, or just not really giving it its due attention. And it was really like keeping me in such a, like what I call, like it was a bit of a gray state, like my whole being just was not lit up. It was not in its radiance. It was not in its fullness because I was so misaligned. I was not being what I was made to be essentially and called to be. And, it never just simply like went away, because it's like your inner compass, like it's constantly calling you to it until you finally align with it. It's like, how long are you going to struggle for, right? So at this point, I'm like by the ocean, I'm just watching the waves, like just the just the perfection of how everything is just in alignment. It's just like it was such a sunny day, and I just remember just sitting out here for like many times and just realizing like I didn't even want to write anything, like I didn't even want to ruminate anything. Like I just enjoy watching nature as it is and myself just being present for this moment. And it's almost like I could feel the waves within me, like that momentous, that power, that energy, that life force, that inner life force. I just felt such a sense of vitality and like vibrance and abundance and like that bountiful energy that led me here in the first place, because I had already been close enough in that state of joy and appreciation and gratitude that I was like right at that point when you're already have everything. You feel like you have everything, and yet suddenly something else pulls you to more. And that's the moment that you actually are close enough to say, okay, yes, I'm ready to go. And then when you go, you're like, wow, this almost just like everything else just kind of washes away. Everything else just falls away. Everything that I thought was so like good, or good enough or whatever, or just like in that state of gratitude and joy for, is just like magnitude, like mm, it's just like, what's a word that like a magnet, what is that thing that you magnified? It's just like magnified like 10x, like 100x. Like it's not even a quantifiable thing. It's just like whoosh, just this feeling of finally like coming home to myself, like actually feeling like I was fully present in this moment. So this was like the actual time, March 2016, arriving in Malaga, just feeling that sense of like just by the beach, by the coast, and that ocean, like the powerful movements and motions of the ocean. I just felt like it, even like I would go there like in the evening when the stars were out and the sky was like more black or something. And I would just be like, wow, just this place is so magical, especially like it was just converging with my own journey. It was like I was meant to be here in this particular place at this particular moment. It was just like this feeling of being so in sync. Abraham Hicks says, like, get in the vortex. I felt like in this moment, I was in the vortex, like, truly, not just like circling the vicinity, but truly just like on point in the vortex, in sync. And I could feel that feeling of just joy and renewal and like aliveness and like excitement of life for nothing else but just the being of it, like just that expansion of self. And it wasn't for anything other. And I was like, whenever did you ever feel like there was anything to do but simply be? Like, whenever did simply just being not become a thing, that you feel like you have to do this or do that, or you have to go to universe, you have to go and do it out, you have to go do things that you don't even want to do, that you don't even feel called to, like you're just doing it because your mind is, it's almost like your you know something hijacked you. Your mind hijacked who you are, like your consciousness is the driver, and somehow you let your mind hijack that the leader, your soul, and let your mind kind of take the forefront, and then chaos just happened. Like just wreaked havoc essentially on your life because your mind is not meant to be in the driver's seat. Your mind is not like you telling you to go and do all these things. It's almost like it's crazy, it's ridiculous actually when you think about it that way. It's like, whenever did you just fall away or deviate from your true life's path and the whole, your whole birthright, and just being here just simply to enjoy life, to simply be able to explore and to feel joy and experience what it is to be a human being and just a soul in your human being, and not necessarily existing like in this such a meaningless, almost like empty existence where you're just operating from your mind and like doing tasks because your mind has called you to do certain things. Like, how in the world did your mind get a hold of the driver's seat? How in the world did your mind hijack the wheel, right? It's really redonkulous. So, at this point, I'm like mid 20s, 27 or so, and I'm feeling like I'm like an old soul. I'm like freaking just like, there is nothing else in life but to just be. And I'm like, my whole thing was just pursuing wisdom and peace and that higher purpose. And like, I felt like in this moment, I'm like, I didn't know this term at that time, but it's like essentially just your ikigai. And I just felt like such a sense of alignment. I'm like, nothing else matters. Like, truly, nothing else matters. Like, I have such a high sense of well-being right now, when normally I would be thinking about like retirement and like savings funds and like employment and career and like getting, all your benefit, whatever, you know what I mean? All these things that actually never mattered to me in the first place. And I'm like, I don't like, just gave me a freaking headache or confusion. Like, I just do not even know what is going on in that world. It was like these things, like all of this just washing away with each lap of the ocean against the sand. It was just like, holy crap, there's just so much crap. Even after I done like the Vipassana, it was like, this was just another layer to it. It's just another layer deeper. I was like, wow, all of the nonsense and the crap. And even like, a lot of the journals that I was like even having gratitude and appreciation, I'm like, whatever, this doesn't even matter. It's not about gratitude and appreciation. It's simply about just being, you know being, just simply allowing and flowing and existing in the moment, and not having to like quantify it or, put a label on it or categorize it or even write about it, who knows, whatever. Like, literally just sitting there and almost absorbing the energy. So this is what I did a lot of in Malaga, to be honest. And even like, I would just go for like walks, and there was this fortress castle type of place in the middle of the city, just like half an hour walk towards the city center. And it was like a fairy tale. It was like flowers in bloom. It was like lots of pink and like so serene. I was like, wow, I truly feel like I'm in some kind of a fairy tale storybook adventure right now. And it just felt so magical. Like, this is literally why I stayed in Malaga for like 2 months, and actually probably should have stayed longer, to be honest. I feel like I probably could have stayed 3 months, but even then, like I felt like I kind of cut it short. But that was definitely a place that really converged with what my soul was leading me to, and whatever it was that my soul needed to experience and meet herself there, essentially. Like, I met myself in Malaga in that sense, that just that reflection of that beauty and that wisdom and that serenity and that magnitude and that life force energy that was within me was being reflected all around me. And that like zest for life and that enthusiasm and the note of the appreciation, like just the beauty all around me. It was just like, I didn't have to write about it, I didn't journal about it. I wasn't necessarily like, ruminating about it. It was just there now. It was just in front of me. It was just being. It was just in existence. And this is like in the vortex energy. This is like being in sync. Like, that is the sweetest, most magical feeling when you're in that energy, because you're like, wow, I truly feel like I'm just walking on sunshine, like in cloud nine, all of those cliche phrases where it's like heaven on earth, like it's like lighter than light. It's like you're just levitating in a lighter life force energy, it's just like, it's like a certain high that I feel like if you can stay there in that vortex, in that place, in that high energy place, it's just like bliss. It's absolute bliss. But once you're there and you experience it and you're conscious of it, it's like you're always wanting to go back. You're always seeking to like connect with that again, essentially. So, this was really about renewal, and it was about getting into alignment. It was remembering who you truly are. And the whole journey that led me there was getting closer to that. It was like this Marco Polo game that was pulling me in closer and be like, you're getting closer. It's like, not quite, not quite. And it was like this journey that allowed me to step, like, to answer that calling of like what my soul print, like that blueprint that your soul came to the world to express, that Sagittarius midheaven energy, living life on a bigger scale, like on a global scale, that expansion, that global quality, that true calling of alignment, and like noticing the magnanimous qualities of the earth. Like these are all reflections of myself and what I came here to experience. And in that moment of experiencing it, it's like I met myself. I was like, yes, this is what I'm here for. Who knows what other nonsense I was, even ever thought that I was meant to do, right? So that's just so interesting how sometimes when you're when you're not properly allowing your soul to take the driver's seat, your mind can take you to places that you should never have gone in the first place. And that's just like the reality of it. Once you actually experience the bliss of what it is to be so in concert and alignment with your soul, it's like being out of it feels intolerable. And you're always seeking alignment with it over and over again. And yeah, it's like just be an old soul. You just live life, just pursue that peace and your higher purpose. And it sounds so simple. It really is. It truly, really is. And you're meant to just enjoy life and to allow your soul to show you the way, essentially. So that is episode 25 of Let the Story Write Itself.